Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Muhlenberg and Mr. Hamilton, you may want to comment on this, but the Indonesian government's final accident report identified 9 contributing factors that resulted in the crash of Lion Air Flight 610. One of those factors was the absence of guidance on the MCAS or more detailed use of trim in the flight manuals and in the flight crew training that made it difficult for the flight crews to properly respond to the uncommanded MCAS. And I bring this up in the context that it was reported that after the initial certification, and I guess this was discovered obviously after the plane was certified, that the adjustment in the horizontal tail was greater by a factor of 4 than what was certified. Can either of you address that?
I think you're referring to the MCAS authority with low speed versus the high speed. So originally, we did wind tunnel testing back in 2011 and determined we were going to need to do something for the handling characteristics for high speed wind-up turns. And that's where we developed the original MCAS. During flight testing in 2016, we identified that there was some additional work we had to do to satisfy for a low speed. And that's where we used the MCAS to address that. There is a difference in the authority, but that's partially because when you're going low speed, you need to move the stabilizer a little bit more to get the pitching moment that you need to count to address the handling quality.
Well, my question here is in the training, according to what the Indonesian government found, was the training based on the original certification, or did it take into account both certifications? Were the flight manuals and the crew training adequate to address both situations?
Yes, sir. We were open and transparent with the FAA on the authority between the high speed and low speed all the way through the certification development. And they understood that prior to certification, and the decision on—
That's not the question. The question is, did you provide adequate, detailed instructions for both situations?
When we were having conversations with the FAA about what should be in the training manual, we were accounting for both the high speed and low speed, yes.
But was it adequate?
We believed it was sufficient, as Mr. Muhlenberg has said, because we want to train pilots on how to react to the behavior of the airplane, regardless of what's causing it. And a runaway stabilizer is a memory item that we expect crews would be able to react to and take action. We've learned since these accidents that we need to take further action.
There's also some criticism that's been reported about the fact that Boeing tends to use the same design for planes rather than build a new plane. And in the case of the 737 MAX, you're basically using an old design and that required the MCAS system because you used larger engines and moved them more forward on the plane. Is that also accurate?
You know, we've evolved the 737 family through the years, but we've also updated the safety requirements that it's certified to through the years. And it's not uncommon, as you're developing a new type design airplane, that you find things in flight tests and have to make a software change or some other control law change to address that.
Yeah, but more specifically, you were in the process of a totally new design, and these were on parallel paths, weren't they, for this 737 MAX? I mean, that's what's been reported, I believe.
John, you referenced the early trade studies.
Yeah, the early trade studies were, we were looking back in 2007 of re-engineering and also looking at a brand new airplane. And those were both being developed and looked at, and we made a decision back in 2011 to proceed forward with the—
Okay, was the decision based on what is the best, safest design, or based on what you could get to market?
You know,
in a timely manner.
Safety guided the decision, and you know, pilots fly the family of airplanes, and from a safety standpoint, it's important that crews are able to transition from from one airplane to the next without having to think about, am I in a MAX or an NG? They want them to feel and operate the same way.
Well,
And that is
that's
the
a matter of
highest
time
safety issue.
and training. That's a matter of time and training. I want to say this, that hearing some of the questions that have been directed toward you today, I do not think that Boeing in any way intends to produce an unsafe product. I do think, though, having worked in engineering, mistakes are made. I think sometimes people make decisions that have very bad outcomes, and I think that might be an issue here. I have children who fly. I fly every week, and I think everybody in this room probably flies in a Boeing product. And when they put on that seatbelt, they want to know the plane's going to take off safely, fly safely, and land safely. And that ought to be the sole point of this hearing. Retribution, any other thing that comes after that, I think will be handled in the courts of law. But from the perspective of transportation safety, we want safe planes. I yield back.